Hi, I'm Arthur Dickins, and this is my Rugby Legends podcast. In each episode, I interview an amazing rugby player or coach to get their insight and advice from young rugby players just like me who are keen to learn and get better. In this episode, I'm really excited to be speaking with Steve Borthwick, coach of England men's rugby team. Steve is definitely a legend of the game after a successful playing career where he won 57 caps for England with 21 as captain. He then went into coaching. He was the forwards coach with Japan and then England. He won the Premiership as head coach in Leicester Tigers, and he was made head coach in 2022. Steve is one of a very small group of players who has been a successful club captain and coach, and an international captain and coach. I hope you find Steve's knowledge and wisdom as helpful as I did. Enjoy. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Steve.
Well, it's great to be here.
So first question, what's harder, being a player or being a coach?
Oh, well, I think both are absolutely brilliant. I think as a player, you're on the grass there, you can effectively influence things. It feels like you're in the middle of the game. You can take control a bit of the game, especially if you're a captain. I captained a lot of teams, and feels at that point in time, he feels like you're in control. Now, as a coach, you in the game there, you trust the players to take control of it. So it's very, very different. And I think that what I do now, I can set up an environment and create an environment in the week for the players to be the best they can be. So that's what I try and do is create an environment to allow them to enjoy themselves, allow them to be the best they possibly can be.
That's very interesting. And when did you know that you wanted to be a coach?
I reckon that I knew I was always going to be a coach from pretty early on. I had some really good coaches as a youngster. My teachers at my school were brilliant. They were great coaches, and they wanted to help. And early in my career, I had some fantastic coaches that made a big difference to me. You can make a difference coaching, you can help people. And I think probably from then, probably that was the foundations was there. I would say I probably tried to maybe deny it for a while. I tried lots of other things. I studied at university. I went into lots of different businesses, looked at some other things. But I think if you can't play, coaching is the next best thing.
It's very helpful. And as you said, you had a load of good coaches. What was the best piece of advice the coaches gave you?
I've been really, really fortunate to have lots of coaches giving lots of great advice. And I think it probably the best advice depends upon where you are in your stage, in your development. From really, really early on, my coaches just stressed enjoying it, enjoying what I was doing. And that was very fortunate. I had those kind of people around me. And I always remember one coach, however, telling to me about the importance of keeping things simple. Keep it simple, keep it simple. So when you're going onto the pitch, your brain's not thinking too much about all kinds of things. You're just going out and trying to immerse yourself in the game. And I think the best experiences I had as a player were when I felt like I jumped into the game totally. Like I was totally immersed in the game. All that mattered in the world at that point in time was that game. And each pass or each tackle within that game, those are the best memories I have. So that coach who said to me, just keep it simple, just fully jump into it. I think that's pretty good advice.
That's very interesting. And who's the best coach you've played for and what made them so good?
Am I allowed to give more than one answer?
Yes.
Okay. I'll give you 2 or 3 then, maybe even more, because each one's a little bit different. My first coach, professional level, was Andy Robinson, and he coached Bath, and he's now at Bath Rugby Club again now, and he coached me at England. Best thing about him is passion, absolute passion. He just oozed out of it. You can't fail not to be around him and not feel his passion for the game. and for the team. And I was then a coach called Michael Foley, who played for the Wallabies, and his understanding and ability to teach all the little technical bits of the game was unbelievable. So I got really, I got better, real improved technically with him. I would say then coaches like Eddie Jones, whose understanding of the game is absolutely phenomenal, unparalleled. I've never met a guy who has an understanding of the game like him. And then I picked, if I was allowed to, I'm allowed to pick one more because I want to miss loads out. So I apologise to all the coaches I miss out. I'll pick out Brendan Venter. Brendan Venter has an intensity about him I've never met any other person have, and it just means it carries you with it. It's like this river, this fast flowing river of energy, and when you get around him, you're from part of that river, and you're just flowing so fast. You just and it brings everybody with him, and it gets faster and faster and faster. That's the kind of energy, the contagious energy, something like Brendan Venter has.
That's very helpful, thank you. And what did you love most about playing rugby?
Oh, I loved playing rugby. I enjoy contest, and I think and that's probably the bit I miss the most about playing. The bit I miss the most about playing is actually being in the contest. Now, as a coach, you are like there's a coaching team over there, and I'm in this coaching team, and we've both got our teams on the grass, and we're trying to compete against each other. But I don't think anything can fully replicate when you're in the heat of the battle. When you're on the grass, and one team is going at the other team, and whatever that's from a maul, a tackle, a carry, whatever that is, there's one team going into the team. That contest, I love that contest. I would also say is when you find out about people, and I was fortunate to be part of some really good teams who were full of really good people who, when it got tough, they had each other's back. They looked after each other. And I think rugby's a way where you find out a lot about people. You learn a lot about yourself. Those people how you respond when things are hard, how you respond when you're tired, you're fatigued, you're bruised, you're sore. And the best teams I've been involved in were full of people that just kept looking after each other. And that, I think, is very, very special.
That's wonderful, thank you. And which was the best team you've played in?
The best team I played in, I was part of a Bath team in around 2003 that had been through some adversity together, and we came together with some other players joined us, and we came together really quickly, and we had a very good coaching team, and we didn't want to go to that adversity again. We didn't want to have the pain that we'd had previously, and I think it had driven us all on to come together really tight and become the team we wanted to be. And we came very, very close to doing something special that year. That was a very strong team. And I think when I was at Saracens, and I was in Saracens, and the team there that Brendan Venter started coaching initially, and other coaches carried on. It was a team with a brilliant ethos, a team that was packed full of good rugby players. Everybody was good. The main thing was the spirit of the guys, the spirit of the team. Those days I remember, those are the people I remember, the people with that incredible spirit. That was special.
It's very interesting, thank you. And when did you know that second row was your position? Was it your decision, or did it come from a coach?
I am not sure people choose to go into the second row. I think it usually gets put on them. What position are you going to play?
I'll play fly half.
You're going to be fly half, yeah. That's. I always think I should have been fly half as well. I grew up playing number 8, and I was a number 8 throughout my school. I didn't touch a rugby ball till I was 11, and then I started playing then, and the teachers put me at number 8. and played all the rugby there. Went to my first trial, and used to have these regional trial games, and I didn't get picked, and not in the squad at all. And it was just, I don't know how many schools came together, but it wasn't that many, and I didn't get picked. And through, I think, a bit of good fortune, an opportunity opened up in the second row. So I started playing a bit in the second row. And then for my school team, I became a member of the first team when I was like 16, and a real good back row. So I played for my school in the second row. So from then on, I'd started playing a bit in the second row. Um, and so I mixed between second row and number 8. And probably initially, number 8 was my favourite position. I was playing second row because that's where the opportunity arose. And then slowly second row became my position.
It's very helpful. And what other positions did you play growing up?
Yeah, well, number 8 and a bit of blindside flank as well, a bit of number 6. And as I say, I would love to have been a fly half like yourself. And unfortunately, that was not to be for me. I think that's one of the great things about this sport we love is, there's a position for everybody, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a position. It doesn't matter whether you're lightning fast or a little bit slower, whether you're tall and skinny or you're a bit smaller. There's a position for everybody, and I think that's one of the great things that the rugby kind of embraces. That I think rugby kind of embraces the difference in people. And I really like that about rugby.
That's amazing advice. Thank you. And who is the best player you've played with or against?
Wow, it is a really good question, because I think one of the things is, how do you define the best? So you'd be the most talented, the fastest, the bravest, the toughest, and there was loads of players came to mind for me. So I've been fortunate to play with and against some really, really good players. So your position, fly half. When I was young, I played for an England schoolboys team, and this England schoolboys team won the Grand Slam, and we won the Grand Slam with a drop goal from our fly half, and late in the game against Wales, and that fly half was Johnny Wilkinson. And I know you're young, and I know you've watched the videos of Johnny Wilkins kicking a drop goal to win a World Cup for England. I was fortunate to know him back then, and seeing him even then was how hard he worked, how dedicated he was. Everybody had so much respect for him for that, and then to go on and do what he then did in his career for England, when it came from all this hard work. So I'd suggest that was one of them. I'd say I played with and against, with a little bit, but against mainly a former England captain, Martin Johnson. And he was probably the toughest I ever played against, and he's absolutely superb. And then I wanted to share one that you may not know of, but probably the most talented rugby player I ever played with was a player called Sculp Brits. And Sculp was a hooker, but genuinely, I think he could have played any position on the field. He was fast, he was skillful, he was powerful, he was fit. He could do just about anything, and he always wanted to be challenged. So he'd be the hooker throwing the ball into the line out, and he would, every now and again, because he'd got bored, he would have got somebody to cover his eyes as he was throwing the ball, so that he just had to listen to the sound, so he could see if he could throw it to the right place without being able to see where the right place was. Or he was left-handed, so where he positioned his hands on the ball was a very specific way, and he would challenge himself because he was that good. I'm going to throw the ball right-handed into the line. He was a phenomenal player.
It's very interesting. Thank you. And as you said, Martin Johnson was the toughest player you ever played against. What was his toughest player?
I think there was, at that point, England, there was 2 second rows. One was Martin Johnson, one was Danny Krugcock, who were incredibly physically tough. And I think one of the things there is when you're in contact, just tough, hard men. Very rarely did you ever see them lose a contact. But what both of them were, they were incredibly fit. And I think you can be tough and hard, but if you're not fit enough for 5 minutes into the game, you're struggling to keep up. You're puffing, and you're struggling to keep up with people. Both of them were super fit, and I the privilege of training with both of them. And I remember this when I was a young second row. I was not very heavy, and I could run. I remember being able to run, and I turned up at this training field. It was an England training session once, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to win this. I'm training against people in my position. I was determined. I'm fit. I can run. And I thought just then, I'm going to make sure I win this. And set off. First interval, set off hard. Went off as fast as I could. What surprised me was that right next to me, the front of the group, was Martin Johnson. Now, Martin Johnson would have been 20 kilos heavier than me, a number of years older than me, and he would run and run and run. And again, I thought to myself, this is a big man, strong, powerful, tough, hard, and super fit. And I thought, when I started learning more about him there, I thought this man demands enormous amount of respect.
That's very helpful advice. Thank you. And you've captained at club at international level. Now as a coach, how do you pick a captain? What qualities are you looking for?
Always the number one thing, the character of the guy. Now, the England team now are fortunate to have a number of great leaders. Maro Toje, Jamie George, Ellis Genge, there's Ben Earl, there's tons. We've got tons of. Now, clearly, the first thing is the players' ability. The first number one rule of what's the number one rule for a captain? Play well. Yeah, it sounds so simple, but the number one rule is play well. So be a really good player. And so that coaching England, I've got lots of really good players that have the privilege of coaching. The character, the example I set, the captain is a role model. So you always got to be the best role model to embody what you want in the team. I think there are other bits around game understanding. I think there's bits around understanding what you need to do to win the game. Or in this situation, there's traits. I'm like calm under pressure. How do I handle it when something goes wrong? And how do I handle it when something goes really well? How do you interact with the referee? How do you interact with all your teammates? There are bits like that you're all really important, but I always come back to play well, be an incredible role model. Those are the starting points for me.
That's some amazing advice. Thank you. And I get nervous before playing a rugby match. As a player, how did you manage your nerves before a big game?
I very, very few players who don't feel that bit, the butterflies a little bit in their stomach. And I think it can be a really, really good thing. Because as you grow and you get used to the feelings, and you get used to how it helps you. And I always used to think that about how these feelings help me. It always said to me that it means I care. It always said to me that as if it didn't matter, I don't think I'd have those feelings. If I didn't want to do really well for my team, I don't think I would feel those nerves. So in that sense, I always thought it was a real positive. How did I handle it? There's different things I did, and I'm sure you'll have been talking about this. I liked one is routines. So having really clear routines of preparing for a game, it means you don't have to worry about anything else. So you can keep your mind focused on what you want to have it focused on. I think I always start to feel about whether I feel those nerves, those feelings were at the right level or not. And if they were at the right level was whether I then breathing techniques. If I thought I was a little bit too nervous, or I was a bit feelings were a bit more anxious, I'd use breathing techniques to calm things down slightly. You've heard about people and players doing things like meditation and mindfulness. I did that as a player. Lots of our players do that now. Lots of our players engage in things like mindfulness, uh, do different elements of yoga, Pilates, different things that help get their body and their mind where it needs to be as they approach the game.
What kind of breathing techniques?
It varies. And I think one of the things that when I was a player, I remember there was a period where I felt the nerves, the way you describe them, I probably felt that rather starting to have an adverse effect. Probably started to feel that I didn't have the right level of control to ensure that they were helping my performance. So then I started speaking to people. I started speaking to people around different things that they did. I met a monk, Buddhist monk, who taught me about the meditation that he did. I did some when I was a listed player over many years. I tried lots of different things. I worked with a yoga teacher who would teach me about the breathing through the body movements, and that was hugely helpful. I learned a lot more about myself there. I worked with somebody who was in mixed martial arts, who talked to me about how they controlled their breathing and worked their breathing when they're in the middle of a battle, the middle of a fight, and they are one-on-one and they are wrestling and fighting and still really and they're able to control their breathing then. So there's different ways, but very simply, I keep it very real simple. I use a count for breathing in, pause to account for breathing out. So I encourage you, try it, see what works for you.
That's very helpful. And is it any different from being as a coach?
Nothing can ever replace being a player. So you should play rugby as many years as you possibly can. You should keep playing and playing and playing. So 40 years from now, you should be playing rugby still. And nothing can ever replace playing rugby. I think it is different as a coach, and it's different in the ways in which that you want to create the environment for which the players can thrive. So you do that all the way through the week, and you try every single day to do that. So every single day as a coach, you're trying to create the best environment possible. And as a player, it's probably a little bit more simple. As a player, you're coming in with one or two things you're really wanting to get better at today, and you're thinking about, as a coach, I'm thinking about all the players and how I make it work for all of them that day. And then you get to game day, and I always think to myself about the players, and they get to go into the contest, and they get to go and put themselves against other great rugby players. As a coach, you leave the players to they're responsible now. They're in charge of it now, and that creates different feelings. It creates different to how it is as a player. So you're always being aware, and I encourage everybody, be aware of what they're feeling. You recognize what you're feeling, and there's no good feeling or bad feeling. It's all about how we respond to it. So if you're feeling nervous, that's good. No problem. No problem. It can help you.
That's amazing. Thank you. And what advice do you give your players to help them bounce back from a bad game?
The first thing I always think about is nobody ever, ever, ever goes out to try and make a mistake. And I think that because I think the players all care so much that if it doesn't go the way they want to, then they're usually hurting. They are upset. They've tried their best to do something really, really well, and it hasn't quite worked out for them. So they're hurting. And I think for me, it's really important as a coach that I make sure I recognize how they're feeling. I recognize that the last thing they need me to do is to ignore those feelings and get angry at them or anything like that. So I rarely, if ever, do that. What I try to do is help the players understand why we didn't get what we needed to or get what we wanted to get. Because I think if you can understand that, then you can move on and do things better in the future. I must say that though is what I try to do is I very much look ahead all the time, and I try not to look back too often. So just keep looking ahead, and that's the great thing. There's always another game, isn't there? Like you'll play some great games, and every once in a while you'll play a game where it doesn't go the way you wanted to, and you'll be down, you'll be disappointed, you'll probably hurt, feeling pain. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever
Yeah.
felt like this? Yeah. So just try and understand it. It's a learning, it's a chance to learn, a chance to be better. And there's next week. So you've always got next week to look forward to. So and that's the great thing about what we do. We keep learning, we keep getting better, and there's next week.
That's very helpful. Thank you. And Steve, you've been loads of successful. You've had a very successful rugby career. It's very helpful. It's very helpful. How else do the players recover?
I think every player has their own routine. And the routine before training and before games, and the routine after training and after games. A lot of our players really like the sauna now, so they will spend a lot of time in the sauna and usually have it very, very hot. And they'll alternate a lot of time between the sauna and ice baths. And many of the players will ice bath first thing in the morning. So shortly after they've got up, before they have breakfast, a load of players will go and do their ice baths very early in the day. A player called Manu Tuolangi was probably the player who will spend the longest in the coldest ice bath most often throughout the day. And again, I think the players use that for their physical recovery, but I think they also find it really good for them in terms of their mind and how they are mentally. I think they find these experiences very good. We also have a ice chamber, a cryo chamber, which drops very, very cold. And the players will go and spend several minutes in that post-training as part of their recovery.
And we have an ice bath out there, and my dad got his laughter. I keep popping in there every now and again.
Yeah, the ice baths really powerful, really good. The players will spend a lot of time in the ice bath, spend a lot of time in the saunas. I think it's really good for them and their mind and their body. And it becomes part of it. Players also have things like massage, physiotherapy, flexibility. They'll be helping them a lot. So every player has this. Whilst the training is an important part of the preparation, it's only one part. There's other parts within it, and each player is a bit different. So you've got the players that are powerful, super strong, the likes of Ellis Genge, and then you've got the players that are a bit smaller and super agile and fast, and those players train in a slightly different way as well. So I think it's always understand what works for you and what you're good at. And I think that point I made about rugby has a place for everybody. Whether you're big or small, all our differences there. Rugby has a place for everyone.
That's exactly what my Fran coach says as well. What are you most proud of in your rugby career up to now?
I take a lot of happiness from seeing other people achieve what they want to achieve. And that's one of the big things I enjoy about being a coach. It's probably the central thing I enjoy about being a coach is seeing other people achieve things that make them happy. And from that, I feel happy. There are lots of things there. Even in the most recent. So as we're chatting now, it was only a few days ago that the British and Irish Lions squad was announced. And it was a number of England players had the chance to be they were selected. A number of England players were selected as part of that squad to go and play against Australia this summer, and just absolutely delighted for them. Feeling the disappointment and pain of those ones that didn't get picked. And I think as a coach, when you care about your players, you feel all those emotions with them. And so what is if I have played some small part in helping some players achieve some things, then those are my proud moments. So those can be, you're wearing that Leicester Tigers shirt and being a part of, many people were part of it, but building towards winning the Premiership a couple of years ago, that was seeing the joy and the happiness on all the players and all the supporters. That was a big moment. Twickenham, the crowd at Twickenham jumping up and down when England won there, like those moments, like the last minute win against France in his last Six Nations, where the players and their families get to experience so much joy. Those moments bring us a load of happiness.
It's very interesting. Thank you. And last question. What other position on the rugby pitch would you rely on the most?
Wow, that's a good question. There's a load of good questions here you've tested me with. I want to answer this two things. I want to say, number one, I'm a believer that everything's connected. I'm a believer that everybody influences somebody else and everybody else in a different way. So now, clearly, if you're playing right alongside each other, you have a really big influence on each other. But I'm a believer that everybody has an influence on somebody else in the team. So everybody is important. If I was to say the team most, I think every team, your great 9 and 10, the 9 and 10 that steer you around the pitch, 9 and 10 that attack well, boss the game well, those are the guys that dictate how your team goes. So you're very, very important. So do you. So you're the most important one to rely upon.
Do you have like a quote of yours that always like sticks for you, like a quote you really like?
I think I have a couple of things that I'm always really consistent with. And I try to be very, very consistent, and we're only reminding. I think that I talked to you earlier about a coach who ensured me to keep things simple. So one of my key mantras as a coach is making the complex simple. I think the players go out to play. They're not going out to be thinking too much. So one of my mantras as a coach is about making the complex simple. Then I think that another aspect will be there's a quote. It's actually I think a Muhammad Ali quote, and it talks about belief in yourself. So I believe one of the things to do is try and ensure that the players have belief in themselves. So that's another thing that I continue to push. And then you asked me earlier about when you've had a bad game or something's not gone the way you wanted it to. So the third thing I always talk about is, and this is not just rugby, this is always trying to see the good in people. And I try very hard to do that. And I think lots of people try to see the mistakes. A lot of people see the bad. I think that's unfortunately the way our society is. So I would say I try and one, keep things as simple as possible. Number two is I try and ensure that the players have belief and everybody around the team has belief. And the third thing there would be about always trying to see the good in people.
Who else do you think I should ask to be on my podcast?
Oh, wow, there's a good question. What do you think you'd like to, on your podcast, what do you like to get across? And what would you like to, what kind of messages do you want to send?
Just inspiring the new generation of rugby, telling them like how the players, like how they were younger and they did rugby, how they made their way up to England.
Who do you have in mind? Who would you want to?
Maybe Marcus Smith, gotta stay young. Finn Smith, Alex Mitchell.
Well, I am sure that those guys will be very happy. They're a little bit busy right now as they approach this Lions tour, but I have no doubt that at some point in time, those guys would be very, very happy to have a chat with you.
Thanks so much, Steve. I really appreciate you taking time to be on the podcast. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast.